reproductive technologies like IVF. How does that infringe on a child's right?
3 things.
Okay.
So it victimizes children's right to life.
Am I right to say that, though? Do you get more flack over IVF than a lot of the other ones?
From Christians.
Okay, gotcha. Okay. So 3.
Yeah. So the gays hate my marriage stance.
Okay.
Because we are absolutely, I think, one of the most persistently vocal voices for traditional marriage, and I think probably the most threatening voice, because it is an argument that is very hard to stand against. I'm not making a religious argument. I'm not saying God made Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve, which is a very easy argument to knock down. Do not say it. Do not use it. I am making the argument that children distinctly benefit from being raised by their own mother and father in a stable married household. And the studies are on my side. The stories are on my side. The natural law is on my side. I'm not demonizing any adult group. I'm not saying that you have less dignity. I'm not even saying that you don't have the capacity to love and commit. All true. My mother and her partner have been together longer than most heterosexual couples have. I am saying that marriage distinctly benefits children, heterosexual marriage, in ways that gay marriage will never. So we get a lot of pushback from maybe not ordinary LGB people, a lot of pushback from the activists because of that.
Yeah.
But in the Christian community, the people that walk out of my lectures or speeches or will cancel the people whose platform is hosting me is when I talk about IVF.
All right, well, let's figure out why.
Let's do that. So what is IVF? IVF means in vitro fertilization. Vitro is Latin for glass. So in essence, fertilization that takes place in a petri dish. So lab-made babies. Now, big fertility. We often talk about big fertility thanks to a film put out by the Center for Bioethics and Culture that coined the phrase big fertility victimizes more embryonic life every year than Planned Parenthood, probably by a magnitude of 4. So there's probably about 1 million abortions in this country, surgical, chemical, at-home abortion pill. Our best estimate is there might be 4 million lives lost every year through IVF, at minimum 1.3 to 1.6, depending on how you count the cycles and how many embryos you're estimating are made per cycle. So if you believe that life begins at conception, what you're seeing, which you should, because it's biologically true and biblically true, is that big fertility destroys more little lives every year than Planned Parenthood, that the baby making industry is a bigger threat to the right to life of children than the baby taking industry. And we've got, if you Google Katy Faust IVF, you'll get like 50 interviews where I talked about this last year because it was the thing everyone was talking about. So why is that? It's because you will be, if you go into a fertility clinic, you will be encouraged to make many more little lives than you could ever implant or parent. They will want to mass extract as many eggs from your body, ladies, as possible, which is by injecting yourself with a hormonal cocktail to hyperstimulate your ovaries. So you're not releasing 1 egg per month like God intended, but you're releasing 10 or 20 or 25. And then they're going to fertilize with somebody's sperm, maybe your husband's.
Maybe, may not be.
Maybe not. Maybe just some donor that you've chosen from an online catalog. They're going to fertilize that. Then maybe you're going to get 15 embryos. So 15 embryos that fertilize.
15 humans.
15 humans. You've got a fertilized egg. You have a human in its earliest stages of development. So then your fertility clinic is going to say, now let's grade them. Well, first of all, let's genetically screen them. Okay, so 5 of them genetically, maybe it looks like there could be some genetic abnormality. So we're going to discard those 5.
Right out of the gate.
Lots of false positives in those tests, FYI. Okay, so you're often throwing out children who developmentally would have been just fine if they had had the chance to be implanted. So then you look at that and you go, okay, you've got 10 embryos and you've got 3 boys and 7 girls. Well, you don't need to store all of those. So let's take those 3 girls, excess girls, and you can destroy them, or you can donate them to research so that we can improve our fertility techniques in the future. Okay. So now you've got 3 boys and 3 girls, and you implant 1 of each. So you're going to freeze the other 4. Okay. So now those 2 are implanted. Number 1, IVF pregnancies are always high risk. Just by their nature, they're high risk pregnancies. Now you're implanting multiples, which are also high risk. And let's say that the girl embryo twins. So now you're carrying triplets. And let's just be honest, a lot of the women that are doing this are already 43 because they did not maximize their reproductive years, to have children when their body actually.
When they should have been raising a family, they were chasing a career.
That's right. Yeah, that's exactly right. So now you've got a 42-year-old woman who's pregnant with triplets, and you know what the fertility clinic is going to say. This is too high risk. I mean, man, IVF was one thing. Your high maternal age is another. Twins? That was already high. Triplets? You're seriously at risk, and so are the babies. So they will encourage her to selectively reduce, that is, abort, between 12 and 20 weeks. So they will probably choose, well, we don't need two girls. I'd rather have a boy and a girl. So they will abort one of those girls. Then the twins are very likely to be born premature because IVF does that.
I'm sorry. Hold on. You can abort a baby
in utero
and keep other babies alive?
Yes. You sort of.
I've never heard of this before.
Yeah. You inject them with a solution that kills them. And then very often that extra fetus is absorbed into the other children. It's like morbid. It's insane. And this is
dystopian.
It's very common. It's not common. It is written into almost all surrogacy contracts that she will selectively reduce if there's too many children or the kid is not developing the way that the commissioning adults want. So abortion is actually a really big part of reproductive technologies, of, the baby making industry also participates in baby taking. So now you've got this 42-year-old woman. She's got a boy and a girl. She's undergone an abortion, in the middle of her first trimester or early second trimester. And she's going to deliver the babies early, most likely because she's old. There's twins. IVF often is. So the babies are born at 32 weeks. They spend a few weeks in the NICU. They go home, might have some challenges that a lot of premature babies have, like lung development. Cerebral palsy is pretty common if you're super early preterm. So maybe the children have medical issues. So then she's 42. She's drowning because twins, not to mention special needs twins. And then you get to the point where, she's 47 and you've got the other 4 kids in the freezer. But, they've just gotten to the point where they're not overwhelmed, or maybe the twins are in kindergarten, but they've got these 4 extra kids. And very often children that go into the freezer never come out. So we've got anywhere from 1 million to maybe 10 million children on ice in this country.
We don't have access to all the data.
We have no idea because Big Fertility does not necessarily want this information to be known.
Not.
Okay.
So we're making our best estimated guess.
Right. Yeah. That's right. So, So I've just explained to you that you got 15 viable embryos that turned into 16 children, that all but 2 were discarded or destroyed, donated, or are still frozen, right? So 2 out of 16. So that is not an unusual scenario for big fertility. It's very, very common to make many more embryos, destroy the ones you don't want, screen the ones out of existence you want, sex select them out of existence, abort the ones that are inconvenient or excess. And then what do you do with the ones in the freezer? Well, your options are you can destroy them, you can thaw them and discard them, you can donate them to research, you can donate them to another family, which most people don't want to do because they're raising my own genetic children. Yeah. Those are they're just as much my child as the one sitting at my breakfast table right now. So that's an illustration, because people are like, how are you saying that this is anti-life?
That's very vivid illustration.
When you are counseling a woman on the sidewalk not to go into that abortion clinic, typically there's only one little life at stake. Mm-hmm. When you're counseling somebody on how to think correctly about reproductive technologies, there's often a dozen or more little lives at stake.
Right.
So unfortunately, Christians, you don't get to be unaware, and you must start being highly critical of this. And this is not about your infertile sister who desperately wants children. Yeah. Empathize with her, love her, encourage you to explore natural reproductive medicines. There's restorative medicines that will seek to diagnose and resolve the underlying fertility. Mm-hmm. But you have got to say, do not go into that fertility clinic. Yeah. This is not actually about you. This is about child protection.
Last year, I think, Russell Berger and I, we have an apologetics podcast, and we addressed the IVF question. And what we ended up saying was, functionally, in theory, there's a way to do IVF that could be ethically permissible, but functionally, we just don't know that ever happens.
This is correct.
Is that right?
That's exactly right. So everybody asked me that. The wonderful, incredible Christian families that desperately want a baby, that have unexplained or, fertility that has never been accurately diagnosed. It's just unexplained infertility. Everybody wants to know, but I can do this in a pro-life way. Mm-hmm. Let me tell you what that looks like. Okay. You you do not make any more children than you cannot immediately implant. You never freeze them, because if they go in the freezer, they probably won't come out.
Yeah.
You don't genetically screen any of them. You don't select any of them. You don't selectively reduce any of them. So if you make 3 embryos, you put in 3 embryos. And if 2 of them twin, then what?
Yeah.
Okay. So
And you spend a lot of money to do this, by the way.
So that's the problem. Is I've now spoken to probably thousands of people in real life at conferences and things like that. And I say, that scenario I just described for you. You only use the gametes of your own mother and father. You don't use any other woman's womb. You don't genetically screen. You do not grade the children and implant the higher grade kids. You don't sex select. You don't selectively reduce if you get more children than you intended. That's the only supposed pro-life way to do IVF. And the thing I just described to you, nobody does.
Yeah.
Number one, it's too expensive.
Yeah.
People don't have $12,000 to $25,000 to go recreate embryos every time they want to do a transfer. It's better to just bank a bunch of them so you have virtually unlimited, embryos that you can go back to. And number two, your own clinic is going to advise you against this. Your doctor is going to say, I don't think you should do this. A, because it's less likely to be successful, and B, one of the few things that fertility clinics have to report is their live birth rate. How many of the children that they implant are actually make it all the way to delivery? And so it's bad for them if you conduct it in a pro-life way. So now I've spoken to thousands of people, and I've had 5 couples come up and say, I did that. Wow. 5 out of thousands. I actually did that. We didn't describe any. We didn't grade any. We didn't freeze any. We immediately implanted the fresh embryos. And sometimes they were successful and sometimes they weren't.
So what you're saying is everything about this is incentivized against you doing it in a way that's ethical.
Yes, your own pocketbook, and certainly the best practices of big fertility.